We'll just join. Hey, Stoyan.
Hey.
Cool. And here comes Howard.
Hi there.
Hey, Howard. So Howard is joining us out of New York, and Stoyan's in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
You didn't dare to mention the name of the city, huh?
Oh yeah, with it was Boshek. Is that right, Boshek?
That was close. That was close. Give you that. Bochik. But I'll
Bochik.
send you a link afterwards so you can reconsider your travel plans.
Yes, very much. That looks beautiful for sure. Oh, who did we lose?
Oh, it was me. I was just trying to fix my connection, so I went to my hotspot just to be safe.
Now it seems quite good, actually.
Good. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And
Nice.
while we're waiting,
Introduction. That's the most important thing.
there
So
you go. Now that we're waiting, you can reshare the story that I just shared. Anyway, this is
Oh, I see it. I got it. All right. Oh, you did a lot of stories. Okay, great.
it's a one story in 4 stories, okay?
Got it. Okay.
And unfortunately, the one of my friends so he's sleeping outside. And it seems like I'm sleeping outside, but I'm not. But anyway, that's so if you want to see where my friend is sleeping out in the terrace in the box, which is amazing, by the way. It's kind of like a camping, but you're not in the nature, but like on a balcony. So anyway, different topic. Holiday mood.
Is he going to be in his boxers or anything?
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Can't promise though.
I don't know how they do it in Bulgaria,
No expectations.
You never know what shows up behind camera, so.
But,
Yes, that's true.
but my friend is a genius in cooking. Do you call them mussels or?
Oh, yeah, mussels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, yum.
it was yeah, it's brilliant.
What-
The best mussels in the country. If you're going, it's around Bochik. Just saying.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I love mussels myself. They're good. Yeah, sure. Lots of good seafood around there, you're saying. Is that Stoyan right?
Definitely, yes. That's right.
So how long have you lived on the coast there in that town?
I don't live here actually. I just arrived yesterday for a holiday. But I do have a few podcasts to do while I'm here, so it's kind of like a
Work.
A little bit of
vacation.
work.
vacation in a way, yes.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because yesterday I was sending some emails. I arrived, I'm like, okay, I gotta send some emails, do some administration and paperwork, and then somebody writes me on LinkedIn, and it's somebody who joined the workshop a couple of weeks ago in Austria. And I was like, hey, how's did you manage to apply the learnings? What was one thing that stuck with you? And she's like, you know what? I just love your metaphor when you talk about having a productive vacation. So it means I need to unplug. I need to fully kind of do nothing regarding to work. And I went to vacation and I was fully present. Thank you so much. And I'm like writing an email to a client. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I need to follow my advice. But anyway, it's a different one.
Yeah, it's
Right.
really it's tough to do that. It's tough to unplug per se with all the things at work that you think about and you think about the hundreds of email every day that you're not responding to. So it's easy to cheat. You try to, sneak a few emails in there if you, right? And they usually say, hey, it's your vacation. You're not supposed to be responding to me.
Especially when you're passionate about the things that you do.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, it's
just a few.
different.
Yeah.
I think you have more responsibility around it. When you're like, I'm an employee, I'll just clock out and check out for 2 weeks. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, my policy is to just take a little bit of vacation every day. So it's like, so if I don't feel bad about working.
There you go. That's smart. Well, you're pretty regimented. You've got your calendar all booked out.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, so we're getting ready to get started here. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen
Yeah,
and
perfect.
then we can get things kicked off. Just one, here we go.
All
We
right.
start the broadcast here.
Boom.
How organized you are, getting it all together. I'd be lost. I'd be like, oh, I messed something up.
All right, go on, kick things off there, Jules.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the People Strategy Forum. We are so excited to have you here. As always, we bring on an excellent guest to bring you a lot of valuable information and some great takeaways. So if this is your first time, I want to officially welcome you. If you are a loyal listener, welcome on back. We're excited to have you here as well. We love our loyal listeners that tune in every week. It just keeps us going. And our main goal here really is to just give you so much value and information and things that you can implement at your job, in your business. And as you can see on the screen here, really just to engage, energize, and elevate your employees and company. So like I said, we do that by bringing on guest speakers. And today we're a bit of a global panel. We're tuning in from a little bit of everywhere. So, bless technology. And my name is Jules. So I'm going to be introducing our speaker and the rest of our panel in just a moment. But I just want to let you know too, this is really conversational. It's not really, rigid and structured. So if you have any questions at all, we do welcome the questions. Please write them into the chat for us. Address it to everyone, not just the hosts and panelists. So everyone's included and involved. And we'll make sure we get those questions answered for you. And you might be also tuning in from somewhere else outside of Zoom. That's totally okay. Write those questions in. We will get back to you as well. And maybe you're like, I can't tune in live. I'm busy. I have things going on. Well, we are also in podcast form now. So if audio is your thing, listen to the podcast so that you don't miss out on anything. All right. So to introduce you to everyone, we have Shah first up. And Shah is a entrepreneur. She runs multiple businesses from all around the world, from Colorado down to Mexico and everywhere in between. She also has a very extensive experience in human resources, and she came from the corporate world before starting her own businesses. We also have Howard. Howard works with Comp Team. He's a compensation advisor and expert. He does a bit of HR consulting as well. And he is really great at leveraging software to help companies really thrive in the areas of compensation and talent management. Now, Sumit, we're missing Sumit today. He won't be joining us, but he is a regular here. So hopefully we'll see him back next week, but still got his picture up there. And lastly, we have Sam. Sam is the founder of Comp Team. He is the managing consultant there. He started this business a couple of years ago, came from the corporate world as well, but he is an expert when it comes to compensation and talent management. He's helped so many companies improve and implement better compensation and talent programs and initiatives. So very busy guy. Now that takes me to our guest speaker today, coming to us from Bulgaria, the beautiful beaches. He's got the ocean view behind him, very jealous. This is Stoyan Yankov, and we're very excited to have him here. He is going to be sharing the 7 pillars of building a team culture. He's very experienced in this area because he's a productivity coach. He's an author. He's a keynote speaker. He has his own podcast. And if you're coming to us on the Zoom today, you can see that picture. That's from his recent TEDx talk. So also a busy guy because he's helped over 300 organizations. He's spoken in 30 plus countries, written books, helping organizations all the time. And so we're very excited that he had a little bit of time for us today. Again, if you have any questions throughout today's session, put them in the chat. We welcome those questions, comments, feedback. And now I'm going to pass it over to Stoyan. Welcome. We're so happy that you're here.
I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. Just by having interactions with the team prior this conversation, preparations for this conversation, everybody's just so nice and cute and helping. And we just had a conversation with Sam and asked him, what is the objective? What is the higher purpose of this podcast? And everything he shared had nothing to do with business. And I just love this because that was behind the scenes. He can be honest. He was like, we just want to bring people together. We just want to inspire people to have more happy and productive work cultures. And I just want to say, those of you who are listening right now, do yourself a favor. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, People Strategy Forum, go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts. And I was listening to a few episodes and it's brilliant. I love it. And I'm not saying that because I'm here and you guys are cool, but it's really meaningful conversations, really sharp hosts and really kind people. So make sure to subscribe before you forget.
Thanks
I
for
love
that.
how committed you are as well, by the way, because everyone, if you weren't tuned in before we kind of went live, officially live, Stoyan actually changed his shirt so he can match Shah and I. So, if you've seen Mean Girls, Wednesdays we wear pink, you went out and got that. And now you're plugging the show. Sorry, I just wanted to interject and say we love your commitment already. So,
Yeah,
sorry.
that has never, ever happened in the entire time of the forums. You're the first to
I'm
pick
happy
up.
to be a
I mean, I've
trailblazer.
seen where we have people change their lipstick, but not their shirts.
I hope that is not Sam.
Yeah. No, I use the same lipstick all the time, so I never But it's wonderful having you on, Stoyan, and I know that those that are joining us live, those that are on the social media are seeing this beautiful background that you have there. You were actually broadcasting as you're in one of your beautiful locations. So where are you at right now?
Currently, I'm in a city called Bochik, which is on the Black Sea. It's in Bulgaria, and it's a beautiful resort with fantastic seafood, wonderful beaches. So it is my holiday, but I just couldn't say no to this fantastic opportunity. So thank you for having me.
And that's one of the great things about modern day life is that people can work and join in from all over the world in beautiful locations. I know that we often see Shar in some exotic locations in Mexico and so forth. So it's wonderful to see that you're enjoying the beauty out there. So. But Stoyan, tell us. I mean, as we get into the conversation today, one of the things that I would love to hear is a little bit more about your background and how you came to help the people that you help. What drove you to write the book, perform? Just tell us all about it.
Definitely. So, in some way, actually, the United States was involved in the story. I spent a couple of summers in Massachusetts, in Cape Cod, and it was a program called Work and Travel. So as students, we'll go there, spend some time, travel across the country. And that really drove me onto my personal journey into exploring the world. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to do my master's in Europe because it was cheaper at the time. And then I'm going to go to the US and I'm going to become a Wall Street banker. That was my dream. I started bachelor in finance. So I subscribed to do a master's degree in finance in Aarhus University in Denmark. Little did I know that there will be another passion of mine that will take over at a time. So I started to do my master's degree in finance, but every single free hour I would spend on organizing film festivals, directing and producing videos and movies. So at some point I had to decide, should I write my master thesis on some financial topic around financial markets, or should I go for my passion? And I don't know about you guys, but seems like we're kind of on the same page. I always go for my passion. And I was like, you know what? I don't know how I'm going to make money, but I need to go all in on this movie thing because otherwise I'll be just the whole life I'll be regretting this. So I entered the movie industry from a business angle, and I became a producer. So I knew the business world, I knew the storytelling creative world to some extent. So I started a video production company in Denmark, and it was the moment that I also realized the importance of, I don't know how many of you are in creative industries, but when you're producing videos, when you're producing movies, you're always behind time, you're always behind people, you're always behind budget. Right? You have seven production days if you want to get all your shots, but you only have the budget for 2 or 3. So how do you do that? How do you motivate your team to get things done, to get the results that you want, while keeping them motivated and engaged? Not just for one project, because you want to work with people for the long run. So this fascination for productivity, team motivation brought me onto a journey of doing what I do today, working with companies, and in many ways relating to what you guys are sharing as well. How can we empower leaders to create cultures that are not just productive, result driven, very important, but also place where people are feeling fulfilled, people feeling empowered, people feeling happy. So how can we find this balance? And not just on the PR department, hey, we are people first company, but in what ways we can create this environment, which is how this methodology, the Perform methodology and the Perform book came to fruition. As well, I team up with the managing director, the CEO of the leading Europe's startup acceleration program. It's called Startup Wise Guys, and we've been working closely together for a number of years. Both of us really passionate about culture and productivity. So what you're going to find here and what we're going to talk about today is disclaimer. You're probably not going to find anything new. Or if there's something new, it will be 5 to 10%. But it's not about what we know. It's about what we do consistently. So Perform is a simple methodology that can provide leaders with a holistic, bird's-eye view on your culture, on your team. Because in your dynamic life as a leader, no matter if you're a leader in a large organization, if you're a mid-level manager, if you are a founder, entrepreneur, how can you pay attention to your team, to your culture on a consistent basis? So it's a very structured approach filled with many practical examples. We have interviewed over 50 successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, only for the book. I'm leading a podcast. You guys know, you talk to so many fantastic people. I've already interviewed over 120 people just on the podcast. And I'm trying to get their brains. What is working in these specific areas, in these 7 pillars that we're going to talk about? And again, every company is different. What we're going to share today, it's probably not going to work for everybody, but there might be one idea. There might be 2 ideas that is something that is really important for you and your team at the moment. So I'm really happy and really passionate to continue on this journey and to connect with more people like myself, like you guys, who are just want to support people and help people. And hopefully we can have a little fun as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to hear more about these 7 pillars, but I know a lot of our listeners out there are saying, well, yeah, of course, I want my company to perform better. I want the people in my company to live their best lives, to be high performers and so forth. So when should a leader take action? What are the first steps that they should be thinking about to achieve that, to increase performance in their organization and have their people be happier overall?
Well, the first part, and by the way, the Perform is an acronym. The first area of Perform, it's not accidental that the first area is called purpose and values. And this is the first place you want to look into. It's about defining the culture. Now, if you're a founder, if you're an entrepreneur, even if you're early stage, even if you're a couple of people in a garage, you need to start talking about this type of topics from day one. And this is not just my own insights. Actually, through all the hundreds of interviews, I ask people, founders, unicorn founders, successful entrepreneurs, and they either will tell me, you got to talk about the purpose and values from day one, or I wish we started having this conversation from day one. Because when we become 20 people and now we have to scale, we got a new funding round, and we haven't defined the culture, it is really, really hard to do it then. So if you're a leader in a large organization, maybe you just got hired, you might want to check this area. Is everybody clear? Why do we do what we do? What is the bigger purpose of the organization? Okay, people are getting paychecks, they have their roles and responsibilities, that's important, but is everybody aligned and clear? What's our mission? What is the kind of change we want to bring to the world? And the values.
Yeah, that's what I often find. is that's what most people are looking for right now, is those purpose-driven organizations. They want to make a difference in the world, and if we don't, as leaders, if we don't make that clear about what our company is about, what we're trying to achieve, what we're trying to do, then we're not going to inspire those people, right? So it's a huge opportunity to really engage our folks, get them going, and get them excited.
Not only that, but I'll give you an example. I recently had somebody on the podcast. By the way, you should definitely get in touch with her. Her name is Lubomila Jordanova. She's a founder of a company called Plan A for the Planet, which is all about combating climate change. They have a specific software that corporate, large organizations can use to track their emissions. But Lubomila, she never talks about the product. She goes to all conferences, she goes to all major podcasts, and she is excited about the cause, about the purpose. She talks about the consequences of climate change, the why, the cause. And because they're growing really fast, they landed the funding round a few months ago, and I think it's more than 100 people now in less than 3 years. I asked her, how do you attract deceptionally gifted talent? You have to have with this super fast growth. And she was like, Stoyan, the best thing is we never have to look for talent. We have a waiting list of people who want to join us. Because first of all, they relate to the purpose, to the cause, to the mission. Secondly, we get a lot of referrals because people love the culture. And that's the thing. And hopefully people who are listening right now can really take in this. Maybe you cannot afford to pay the salary what McKinsey, BCG, and the large organization can afford to pay. But compensation is not only financial. People in this day and age, they want to be part of something. They want to have responsibility and ownership. They want to make a change. So there's a lot more to it. But again, where do we start? Start by defining the culture and be extremely radical about who do you let in your organization. Who do we say yes to? I just interviewed this guy, Michael. He's exceptional. We can get him for this amount of... Yeah, but he doesn't really fit the culture. He doesn't fit the values that... Yeah, but no. Don't do that. Okay, short term, maybe you might lose a little bit of performance. But if you are very strict about who do you let in, you actually have a chance to build a fantastic culture. And I know you guys had some episodes about the Great Resignation. We can talk about these things as well. I promise you, you will have higher motivation and higher employee retention if you focus on building a culture and if you're an example of living this culture.
Right. I mean, I think we all, and I really appreciate the point you made there, Stoyan, about ensuring you let the right people in. Because I know Shar, I mean, has a great story about a situation where, there was a disruptor in her organization that created a lot of problems. And of course, I mean, that starts taking away on other people. They don't want to show up at work, right? So Shar, tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I've been wanting to just give you a shout out and say absolutely spot on. I remember we brought in a partner with my fiance and I started this business, and we stood in front of the whiteboard for some time talking about the vision of the company, the sales strategies, the productivity strategies, because this gentleman was apparently some massive sales expert, and that's really not our forte. So, but a year into it, a year and a half later, the way he treated our employees and talked to some of my staff, some of the hiring decisions that he made, which were really cutthroat kind of attitude. What I ended up doing is try to keep him out of the meetings. And then I started kicking myself, like, I'm a talent management strategist. Why did I allow this individual into our company? And he ultimately became like a silent partner that just collected the paychecks and did nothing. And I was always resentful. And Sam has lived through it. He got to hear my commentary about this dude. But fortunately, our company has been very successful despite this antagonist. So, it's really important, even as a startup, a small business, and starting in the garage, I totally am with you. You really need to make sure you're partnered with the right people.
And
Because
maybe I can even share a story. I
okay,
share with you guys that I started my first kind of more serious business venture was a video production company in Denmark. We started producing these amazing Hollywood-looking pictures, videos. I had a partner, business partner, a Danish producer, fantastic guy. I learned so much from the guy. We were doing a lot of cool things, but I never knew that I have to talk to my partner and align on the vision, align on the values, align on the purpose. Why do we actually do this? Align on managing expectations. How, if everything goes by plan, how much do you want to work in this company 3 or 5 years in the future? What are we leading to? What is the vision in terms of the size of the team, the kind of customers we want to serve, and so on and so forth. And at some point, both of us realized, wow, we're so different. We have different ambitions. We like to do things differently. And even though together as a team, we were really strong producing exceptional products for clients, there was a huge misalignment, which led to stress on both sides, which led to us splitting up and actually going in different directions.
I completely agree. And, I think one of the red flags that I realized later at the beginning is this individual didn't even want a job description. He was above and beyond a job description. And I said, even the CEO and the president, and all of us have job descriptions. All of us have accountabilities, and we have accountabilities to understand how we work better together. All the things that I always said my entire career, hit me in the face. And I hear, but then again, I'm fairly new to the entrepreneurial space. Back in 2016 or 2017, it's one thing to sit at a table as an HR person and a business partner, HR business partner, and say, okay, CEO, president, here's how we're going to change our culture, and this is what we're going to do to drive culture in this company. But then when you really own your business and you're worried about paying the house payment and paying your staff and paying, your payroll, which was my biggest worry, was the payroll. It's very awakening, I guess you could say, extremely awakening.
That's right. So I know that purpose and values is super important. But Stoyan, tell us about the next letter in perform. So E, what is the next piece that we need to think about?
E is actually my favorite one because I'm a geek when it comes to productivity and efficiency and so on. So E stands for effective planning. So as an organization, how do we set objectives? What is the kind of system methodologies that we use? How frequently do we do it? What kind of strategy sessions do we have? And how do we ensure that everybody's clear what their priorities are? Which sounds very simple. I'm going to tell you, I've done hundreds of workshops with hundreds of companies. Almost nobody gets it right. You go to an organization and ask the managers or the executives, the leaders, and you ask them, can you tell me what are the top 3 priorities of your people, the people that you directly manage? Ooh, I don't know. Or, well, I kind of know, but I'm not sure they do. And then you talk to them, it's like, wow, there's so much misalignment. And I want to share a metaphor that I heard from one of the guests of my podcast, Productivity Mastery. His name is Shane Hurlbut, and he's a Hollywood director of photography. So he's a guy who shot movies like Terminator Salvation, Need for Speed, Game of Thrones, major productions. He's one of the top guys out there. And I asked him about leadership. And he said, Stoyan, one of my biggest challenges as a leader is to make sure that every person from the team is making the same movie, right? Because he had sometimes 250 people just in the camera department. if we go on set and everybody's trying to make a different movie, we'll end up with a very interesting production. And isn't it the same what we do in business? Are we all making the same movie? Is the marketing department and the sales department and the operations department making the same movie? Maybe something to reflect on. So effective planning, exceptionally important area to master the area, to make it simple. Sometimes actually we can go too far and make it so complicated and useless. No, simplicity wins. How can we create structures that make it simple for people to be clear what the goals are, what the objectives are, and on a day-to-day basis, as leaders, to coach our people to be better in self-management and mastering their own time management. So that's the kind of the core of the second area.
Yeah, no, and one thing that I just want to mention, I know that Howard's been there as well, as far as ensuring that goals are in alignment across the organization. So Howard, do you have, as far as goals and alignment, what's your experience with larger companies and
Sam, it's funny. I was just thinking about that, and the challenges in a large company are just astronomical. In a small startup, you have a chance to say everything's new and you're growing. But if you're in a company with thousands of employees, but all different departments, everyone's sort of doing their own thing, it becomes really, really challenging as to how do you get everyone in alignment, and you may think you have this great mission statement and value statement, and a lot of times it's just words on paper, and it's getting people to actually embody it and live it every day. And how do you enforce it? And how do you get rid of the people that are not buying in, but they're seen as top performers? So I don't know if you've had experience with that or not in terms of your consulting work, but it's probably quite difficult.
I worked once with a client in Denmark. It's a large Danish company, and we do a workshop on values and purpose and culture. And I start with a question. I'm just curious, out of curiosity, can you name what are your company values? Zero hands go up. And I'm like, okay. And then one guy raises his hand. We do have some values on the webpage. Okay, what are they? Tell me one. Everybody's quiet. And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's just for the HR department. Interesting, right? The HR lady was in the back and she was kind of not feeling really happy about the answer. But that's what happens, right? How do we not just have a list of values that the leadership maybe decided on, or a consultancy came in and brought these things? And I think, and I want to maybe share something that I learned from a gentleman called Chris Robbins. He's a CEO of the leading Estonian telco. It's called Tele2. And Chris is a value-driven leader. He's been in different organizations, and the first thing he does when he enters an organization, and he's a CEO of the organization right now, is like, I need to figure out what are the values of the organization, but I don't want the executives to tell me. So the kind of process he does, and those of you who own a large company, maybe that could be useful for you. He goes and talks to people, like everybody, the cleaner, the marketing person, the IT. He talks to everybody. One of the questions he asks is, the company he works for is Tele2. And he asked them, who is a Tele2 person? Can you name somebody who's a Tele2 kind of person? Right? It could be a Pepsi kind of person, an Apple kind of person. Right? And usually people are like, yeah, Michael, Maria, yeah, this kind of a tele. Okay, interesting. He goes and he brings those people that everybody names they are a Tele2 kind of person. They're the heart of the organization. And he sends them to a company retreat. And he has a rule. No executives nor myself can join this. Go to this company offsite, and I want you guys to define and articulate what are the 3 to 5 values that we as organizations stand for. What are the kind of behaviors that if you see us from outside, this is who we are. And he's like, every time we do it, it's the truth, it's authentic. This is who we are. Right? You might agree afterwards. The leadership can, okay, that makes sense, that's great. But you wanna observe. We are punctual, honesty. Like, yeah, are you? If we ask 20 people from the organization, are they gonna say that's the truth? Who are we? What is the core of our DNA? Right? So hopefully some of you listening can get some inspiration from this example by Chris Robbins.
Yeah, I think having those conversations and merely just talking to your people is so important. I mean, you were talking about effective planning and goal setting. And I went into an organization once and they were saying, oh, there's just too much bureaucracy. And I would go, and I went in and interviewed people and talked to people in recruiting. And I says, oh, what's going on? It's like, well, we're trying to we're one of our goals this year is we're trying to hire as many people as we can because we're growing so fast. We need to get this in, but we always get this pushback, and it's difficult to get things done. And then I went and I go, well, who do you get pushback from? So I was like, well, finance. I mean, they were the ones that are doing the approvals. And so I went into finance and I go, so what are some of the problems that you're having? And things, yeah, well, we constantly are having problems trying to meet our goals, and we're constantly having to, our people are challenging us all the time. I go, well, what's that? Tell me what's going on with recruiting. Oh yeah, they're constantly coming over and they're trying to hire people as fast as they can. And they have these rates that are higher than what we're used to. And I go, well, what's your goals? Well, our goals are cost containment. And I was like, and so, they have recruiting that is trying to hire people as fast as they can. And then finance, which is cost containment. And so they're rubbing up against one another. So I think that's part of the thing, is that a lot of companies, especially large organizations, simply don't spend enough time talking to one another, understanding what their goals are, and working together to accomplish something. So I'm really glad that that's part of your acronym there. But Stoyan, tell us, what is the next letter in the fold here?
So the first R stands for roles and responsibilities. And I got to be honest with you, me and my co-author, we were sitting together, lining up the framework, and we were like, what should be the R? We're missing an R, right? How about roles and responsibilities? Yeah, but everybody knows what their roles are, right? He's the CEO of the company, she's the CTO. But what do you actually do? The chief marketing officer of one company is going to have completely different responsibilities from the chief marketing officer of another company. And the more we started doing workshops and training and coaching organizations, the more we realized this is the area that probably is the most neglected one. Because it's obvious, it's so common. And just like, as you said, Sam, we are so busy doing stuff that we forget to have these conversations and to create alignment. And just like Howard said, in large organization, it's actually really hard to define and clarify what responsibilities are. This is probably the number one complaint I get from employees. I don't know what my priorities and my responsibilities are. I have a few places that I'm getting tasks and I'm delegating tasks from, and I really don't know what to prioritize. Is that my priority? Is it my colleague? It is really hard for me to manage my time. So roles and responsibilities is an exceptionally important area, and it, of course, is connected to talent attraction. One thing that I hope we can push forward even more, and I'm happy that we're on the same page on that one, guys, is the many organizations are still hiring people, attracting people, and even delegating responsibilities mainly based on what people's strengths are, what people's skill set is. And it's great that it's a necessity. We need to have strengths, right? We need to be skilled in the specific position or role we're put into. But if you want to retain people, if you want people to be engaged and motivated, this is the role of every manager. This would be part of the description. is to consistently have conversations and understand what the people that they manage are passionate about. And this is very practical. This is not a fluffy woo-woo kind of stuff. What do people love to do? What are the kind of areas that they might want to develop in? And I know it's really hard in large organizations, but to some extent or more, to have the flexibility to actually allow people to change their responsibilities and roles after a certain time, if that makes them more excited and passionate. And it's hard in some specific positions and roles, but the more we can create an alignment on putting people in positions that they are good at and they're passionate about, the better.
It also goes to assessing, like you said earlier, are they a good fit for the culture? People get wowed by, oh, look at the technical skills and the expertise this person brings. And then, you bring them into the organization and it's a horror show because they're such a bad fit.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think it's also important that by talking to our people, we understand, what they're passionate about, what they really love to do, and often it's great to ensure that we know what their special talents are. I mean, some people are super good at Excel, or maybe are great at talking and negotiating with others. And so knowing these, I call them superpowers. I mean, knowing these superpowers that people have, it can be wonderful. It makes them feel so valued when you come to them and say, hey, well, tell me your opinion on this. And then also it just helps us perform overall better as a company.
I just want to mention one other thing. Oh, go ahead. I haven't talked. Now I'm talking all over you guys. So I used to do orientations for a very large healthcare system like that. Howard kind of referenced, a larger organization. I'm telling you, we would have anywhere between 80 to 100 brand new hires in the room. So it was kind of a mass event, and we did this a couple times a month. That's how much we were hiring. So HR was busy, but one of the questions I would always ask the new hires is, how many of you have actually read your job description? Brand new hires. How many of you actually saw your job description? How many of you know what your mission, vision, values, kind of like purpose? And no, hardly anybody would raise their hand. And it was just phenomenal to me. So I would actually suggest that new hires would manage up, go to your manager and say, hey, I've been working here for a couple of weeks and I really haven't even seen my job description yet. Or, can we talk about my number one purpose and priorities in this first year? And then I go back to the managers, and this is what Howard was mentioning. It was so difficult to change the mindset because, like you said earlier, it's HR's job to do that. Well, I'm sorry, HR does not sit down with every new hire and review the job description. I mean, you get the HR assistant that offers the job, the pay, the benefits, but never really goes over the details of the beginnings of the coaching stage. So it was just such a paradigm shift, and it was interesting how many leaders would resist a basic, simple process in the training and development.
Right. Yeah, thank you for that, Shar. I mean, and so Stoyan, tell us what does the F in perform stand for?
So F stands for focus and execution. So we talked about planning before, right? And there's organizations and there's leaders that are exceptionally good planners. They always have the goals, the structures, the frames. But then how do we make sure that ourselves, our team, we stay focused on the things that matter most? And it comes down to learning to say no, which is really, really difficult, again, in the big structure organization. So the four areas is focus and execution. In the book, in the Perform methodology, we identify the 5 villains or 5 enemies of focus and execution. Happy to share it. We all met them. We all know them. So the first one is lack of clear priorities. And that could be solved if we master the area of effective planning. That could be solved. So lack of clear priorities, number one villain of focus and execution. The second villain is the shiny object syndrome. right? Like you, oh, this new thing is so interesting. Let's do that. This is like kids. We are all grown up kids. The new marketing idea, the new business opportunity. We all want to do not everybody, but most of us want to do the new stuff. The problem is the more you're adding to the list, the less the quality will be because you don't have unlimited capacity. So we really have to put this villain into check. The third villain of focus and execution, procrastination. There was a study that was done with, I think, close to 1,000 people in the UK, and it found that employees in companies spend more than 2 hours procrastinating every day. There's probably a lot more. That's what they report, right? We're all procrastinators. The question is how much and where is it coming from? Can we actually take control of our time and empower a culture where people are not procrastinating, but actually focused on what matters? They're getting results. Okay, number 4, multitasking. Now, everybody knows this is not, they say multitasking doesn't exist, right? It's a term that's been coined for explaining computer processor processes, right? We cannot cognitively, you cannot listen to the podcast and solve a mathematical problem at the same time. You're jumping from one thing to another. And it's actually really dangerous when you're switching, there's multiple research studies that show how much dumber you become when you are switching all the time. And look, there's some position, there's some roles in the company, maybe you're in the customer service, customer support, you have to switch constantly from one thing to another, from one chat window to another. But for the most part, we actually have control, right? So multitasking is the 4th one. And the 5th one, perfectionism. How many of you here in the room actually are perfectionist or have some perfectionistic traits? Okay, me and Sam, seems like. So perfectionism, of course, it has positive sides, but on the negative part of things, it can generate a lot of stress, and it can be on your way to finish things because it's never good enough. So often when we do workshops with small teams, and you can try that with your team if you're leading a small team or a bigger one, just show them the 5 villains and ask them, which of those villains can you relate to? Which of these 5 is visiting you most often? And then have a real discussion. Why is that the case? Where is it coming from? Oh, 5 procrastinators, amazing. How do you guys deal with that? When you have a highly productive day and you actually manage to beat the villains, how did you do that? What can you do? How can we do as your teammates to support you? And so you can have a really productive discussion and hopefully improve the amount of time people spend on the things that really matter for their role and for their position.
Well, I totally agree with you. I do believe that many leaders paint themselves in a corner, per se, by really focusing on their superstars and dumping too many projects or too many priorities on their superstars or their top performers of the organization. Oftentimes those individuals get, underlying resentful or overwhelmed, even though they're a superstar performer, and may have their eye on leaving the organization because their boundaries are not being respected. And then meanwhile, you've got maybe some average performers that could probably use some more accountability and focus on some priorities that could probably learn and expand their talents and skill sets. But I've really had way too many leaders that just, it's always Sally. She's our number one. She's really going to execute. She's going to achieve everything. Where George, let's get him off the bus. The number of times I've heard that, it's like, well, George has been here for 30 years, so why is he still here for 30 years? George could probably do a lot in this company. So, I've had so many dialogues about this with leaders as an HR business partner. It's really hard to overcome. So it'd be great if they could read your book or your workshop and really understand these pillars.
You know, Char, I really love maybe 10 minutes ago, you brought the topic of managing up, which is not just about being a candidate and being hired, and you have to manage up and really read the description and learn a lot about the culture in the company. When you join an organization, you're not in school. Like, and some people continue with the school mindset even in their 50s or 60s. Like,
Mhm.
no, you're here. You gotta manage yourself up. The
Yeah.
best performers are the ones that they're not waiting for stuff to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who's listening right now, if you're an employee, how do you give the most value to the company? What is the one thing you do that gives the most to the business? How often do you actually self-manage yourself? When you are running out of tasks, you're the one that goes to your manager and is like, hey, what should be my priorities? Or I have not received the report you sent me. It's my ownership to deliver by Friday. I need this report. You manage your managers. This kind of attitude, this is an attitude, right?
Mhm.
So hopefully we can empower more people who are employees as well to decide to show up, to take ownership, and to manage their managers, to manage their executives.
Yeah, it needs to be all levels of the organization. Even the managers have a manager, even a director, a VP, even the CEO has the manager of the board or whatever, or the president. It's we all have to manage up and make it a cultural mindset. And also talk about boundaries. These are the things I can successfully achieve. I focus on the essential few. I can master these. Or if you give me 12 priorities, I probably will fail. I've actually had that conversation with my VPs. If I'm in, 11 different states with 12 different priorities, I'm going to always fail. So
Yeah, I love that. I love what you're saying there, Shar, as far as knowing the boundaries of your people and respecting those. I think that's super important. So Stoyan, tell us about O and perform.
So O stands for optimal energy. And this is about the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual well-being of the leaders and their teams. And this is probably the one that we know most about. Every single person have common sense about each and every area that gives you energy. Optimal energy is the kind of state in which you operate at the optimal performance, and you are fully present to the moment, right? But how do we get there? And again, we love frameworks, right? So we created a simple framework for this area, which is for every person here, could give you a bit of a structure about where is my energy coming from and what is dragging my energy out. So energy is another framework. So it stands for exercise, nutrition, excitement at the workplace and out of the workplace. What's the next one? E and R. R is relationships. Okay, your friendship, your intimate relationship, your colleagues, your friends, and so on. G stands for good sleep, good quality sleep. And then Y is you time for yourself. Again, very simple thing. Have a look at these areas and ask yourself, how am I doing? If I look into the last few weeks from 1 to 10, how am I doing in each of these areas? 1 is the lowest, 10 is the highest. Is there
Yeah,
any
that's
specific habits that I need to develop in order to be at the top of my energy?
yeah, so important. I mean, and those are the things we often neglect in our lives, and they're so critical for our high performance, especially sleep. I mean, you got to have that sleep, or you stop operating, right? So the second R in perform, Stoyan.
The second R stands for robust communication. Now we tiny little bit touched upon it, talking about the are we all making the same movie? And I guess we can make a 4-week seminar on communication, and it's not gonna be enough. Looking at all of you guys, you have so much experience and you know what I'm talking about. But at the simple terms, what kind of structures do we have in the organization so we try to be on the same page. So we don't over communicate, but we can communicate enough internally. And I think that the second part is creating a feedback culture. One thing that many organizations are struggling with and executives are complaining about is, how do I create a space where my people tell me when we are not doing well? Or in the sense of the last couple of years, hybrid workspace, working from home, how do I know that my people are not okay? Because they're not going to tell me. They're afraid to share that they made a mistake. I don't know, you guys, many of you are consultants. You probably know when you do a workshop, when you start talking to people and they start really sharing, this is one of the main things. I'm not feeling safe to share when something's going wrong, because I don't know if when I share a mistake, how that's going to affect me in this organization. They're afraid. And there's so much stuff that's not going well and people are afraid to talk about it. Or we're missing out on innovation and experimentation, because innovation and experimentation happens when you create a safe space for people to experiment and allow a certain percentage of projects and activities to fail, to not work the way we want. So communication is a very complicated topic, but definitely something we need to pay more attention to as leaders.
Great advice. Especially, I feel like the test of really having a psychologically safe organization is those organizations that respect failure, that allow it to happen, to allow it to be a learning exercise, and not be so critical upon it. So it's definitely, I think is important that we have good managers that can guide people effectively and allow them to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and keep going, right?
Absolutely. And
so the final letter there in perform, Stoyan, M.
Last but not least, mental toughness. Our capability to deal with uncertainty, to navigate challenges, to remain calm as leaders. And by the way, everybody's a leader. Of course, sometimes we say leadership and we mean the executives or the management, but in simple terms, everybody is a leader. Everybody needs to show up. Everybody needs to manage up. And mental toughness is the capability to show up when things are not working by plan. And very interesting, I interviewed recently, I'm sharing a lot of those stories, but they really inspired me. There's a company in Europe, in Estonia, one of the leading companies in Estonia. It's called Thunderbeam. It's a fintech. Very inspiring female founder, Kaidi Rusalep. And she shared with me, Stoyan, as a CEO, you are also the chief motivating officer. And I'm like, interesting. Tell me more about it. And she was like, well, look, one morning, and she's not a morning person, so she woke up, there was traffic, it was rainy, she's not in a good place. She goes to the office, and she used to work for the Tallinn Stock Exchange. She was the CEO of the stock exchange. So she goes to the office, she gets her coffee, but she didn't drink it yet, right? So it's like, I'm not in the mood. And she walks through the office, but her office is the last one at the end of the corridor. So everybody sees her, right? And she's not in the mood. Nothing happened. She doesn't say a word. She goes to her office. 15 minutes later, the head of HR knocks on the door. He's like, Kairi, can I talk to you? Yeah. What's wrong? What happened? Nothing. I just didn't have my coffee yet. And, traffic was terrible. Everything is fine. Okay, because I had 3 people from the team knocking on my door, asking me, what's going on? Is somebody getting fired? Did we lose an account? Like, what is happening? Why is Kaidi like that? Like, think about it. Think about how you show up, because it matters. All eyes are on you as a leader, right? And you might have a bad day, nothing related to work, but the interpretation of people is going to be completely different. So remember that you're the chief motivating officer as the leader.
Yeah, I think that's great feedback. I mean, even and the thought is that, well, if I go in the office and I'm not, if I pretend to be happy, then I'm not being genuine, you know. But what I often say is that, you know, but the thing is that we have that positive attitude, then we start to feel it, we start to live it. It's just like when they say if you're uncomfortable, smile, and then you'll start feeling better. And it really is just kind of living it until it happens. And I think that's a way to get us out of those moods sometimes. So I love that mental toughness.
Maybe if I can just elaborate on that. Thank you so much, Sam, for emphasizing on this subtlety, because we want to be the chief motivating officer, but leadership also comes down to telling the truth, as ugly as the truth is. But again, telling the truth from a place of strength. You can't lose your strength. Hey guys, pandemic is happening. There's a recession. It's going to be a few rough months. We might need to do some cuts. I'm here for everybody. I'm here to talk to everybody. We'll go through it, but I might need you guys to be even more focused than before. Here's the things that I'm afraid about in terms of our risks. Don't worry about it. If we come together, we will go through the storm. Okay? So you tell the truth. You're not, hey guys, everything's fine, yay. And then 10 people get fired, right?
Yeah.
So
unfortunately, I've lived through that, where you had, you know, very senior management always wanting to focus on the positive and spinning a good story, but it came to the point where no one just believed them anymore. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and then what happened at the pandemic is like all of a sudden communication stopped altogether. Managers were afraid to say anything, right? That was horrible. Yeah. Well, a lot of good information here, Stoyan, and I so appreciate your time and sharing all this with us. And real quick, I just want to acknowledge our speaker for next week, and I'm going to share my screen here. And we're going to have Michelle Baker be talking to us about falling back in love with your why. And so I think that we've all heard about Simon Sinek in his book, talking about why and getting passion for that. And one thing that we found in the Great Resignation is people starting to reconsider, why they're doing what they're doing. Is there something else that they would rather do, and so forth? And it's caused a lot of turmoil in the marketplace as people have been shifting jobs. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from Michelle and her conversation. So join us next week on the People Strategy Forum. All right. Well, Stoyan, I mean, and I really appreciate your time. And so, but before we go, I know some of our listeners are saying, hey, I want to know more. So Stoyan, tell us about your podcast and how people can learn more from you.
Thank you so much, Sam. And it's been such a pleasure being with all of you, obviously sharing the same color code. So yeah, definitely. I'm so accessible, so easy to reach. So first of all, you guys can find me, Stoyan Yankov, the way you hear it. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok now. So reach out, send a message, definitely get in touch. You can go to any podcast platform, and if you're into entrepreneurship, productivity, leadership, just like this fantastic podcast, I have amazing guests like the founder of Reebok, the president of Starbucks, David Allen from Getting Things Done. Those kind of people, we talk about these kind of topics in high energy. So if that might be something interesting, check out Productivity Mastery on your favorite podcast platform. Of course, you can learn more about the Perform methodology, finding the book, Perform, the unsexy truth about startup success, including over 50 cases and examples from some of the most successful entrepreneurs in a region we like to call New Europe, Central, Eastern, and Nordics Europe. So that could be something for you. And if you want to go even further, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to join teams and support them to create a more productive and caring culture through keynotes, training, consulting, team offsites, you name it. So reach out. Happy to connect.
Well, thank you so much. It's such a wonderful conversation. Really appreciate your time,
Yeah,
Stoyan.
thank you very much. Nice to meet you. And thanks for
Yes.
changing your wardrobe for us. But thank you. It shows how adaptable you are, agile.
100%.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Stoyan, and you have a wonderful week, and see everyone on the next week's People Strategy Forum. All
Make
right,
sure to
take care,
subscribe
everyone.
to People's Strategy Forum on your favorite podcast platform. I'm already a subscriber and it's awesome, guys.
We need him
All
every
right.
That's great.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
Everyone.